My name is Crix Vorthak, and I used to believe the galaxy was a sensible place. That was before I met the humans. For 3,000 cycles, the Galactic Council had maintained perfect order. We had rules, protocols, proper procedures for everything from planetary annexation to beverage temperature regulations. The Zephyrian Empire controlled the eastern spiral arms with their usual bureaucratic precision. The Thrakari Confederation managed the core worlds through careful committee decisions. Even the volatile Nexus Syndicate kept their piracy to designated sectors, filed the appropriate paperwork, and only raided on Tuesdays and Thursdays. It was beautiful, really. Predictable, safe. Then those absolute lunatics from the third planet of a mediocre yellow star decided to say hello. I was Chief Communications Officer aboard the flagship Eternal Harmony when the first human transmission reached us. Captain Zorith, a distinguished Veltran with 4 arms and the patience of a saint, was reviewing quarterly reports when Lieutenant Fex announced the incoming signal. Sir, Fex chittered through his translator, his insectoid features twitching nervously. We're receiving an unscheduled transmission from Sector 777 Alpha. Unscheduled? Captain Zorith's eye stalks swiveled with mild irritation. Who files communications without proper advance notice? That's the problem, sir. The transmission appears to originate from a previously uncontacted species. The bridge fell silent. First contact was serious business, governed by 17 different treaties, 43 protocols, and approximately 600 forms that needed to be filled out in triplicate. Put it through, Zorith commanded, straightening his ceremonial sash. The main screen flickered to life, revealing a bipedal creature with bilateral symmetry, sparse body hair, and the most unsettling feature imaginable, forward-facing eyes, predator eyes. Greetings, the creature said with disturbing enthusiasm. This is Commander Jake Morrison of the United Earth Space Command. We come in peace, and we brought snacks. I blinked all 6 of my eyes in confusion. Snacks? During first contact? Captain Zorith cleared his throat professionally. Welcome, beings of Earth, was it? I am Captain Zorith of the Galactic Council vessel Eternal Harmony. We are pleased to make your acquaintance. However, I must inform you that first contact procedures require. Oh, that's cool, Jake interrupted, somehow managing to eat what appeared to be a small cylindrical food item while talking. Hey, quick question though. See, we've been monitoring your communications for about, 50 years or so. Love the whole bureaucracy thing you've got going on. Very organized. But we couldn't help noticing you guys seem to have some pirates giving you trouble. The bridge crew exchanged glances. 50 years of monitoring? The humans had been watching us? The Nexus Syndicate operates within established parameters. Captain Zorith replied carefully. Their activities are regulated. Jake nearly choked on his snack. Regulated? You regulate your pirates? Of course. Unregulated piracy would be chaos. They submit raid schedules, maintain proper insurance, and limit their activities to approved shipping lanes during designated hours. Jake paused, and I could see something calculating behind those predator eyes. And how's that working out for you? Quite well, actually. Piracy-related losses have been reduced to merely 14% of all interstellar commerce. 14%. Jake's voice had gone flat. You lose 14% of everything you ship, and you call that success? It's down from 15% last quarter. What happened next would haunt my dreams for cycles to come. Jake Morrison smiled. Not the polite, diplomatic smile we were accustomed to in civilized discourse. This was something else entirely. Something that made my scales itch and my survival instincts scream warnings. Well, Jake said cheerfully. That's adorable. Hey, can you patch us through to these Nexus Syndicate folks? We'd love to introduce ourselves. Captain Zorith's eye stalks drooped with concern. I'm afraid that would violate approximately 47 different. Found them. Another voice called from off-screen, broadcasting on emergency frequencies now. The transmission split-screened, and suddenly we were looking at Grimmex, the terrible, notorious leader of the Nexus Syndicate's most successful pirate clan. His scarred reptilian face filled half our display, looking annoyed at the interruption. Who dares interrupt my scheduled intimidation broadcast? Grimmex roared, displaying impressive rows of razor-sharp teeth. Hi there. Jake waved enthusiastically. Commander Jake Morrison, United Earth Space Command. We're new to the neighborhood. Thought we'd introduce ourselves. Love your whole pirate aesthetic, very authentic. Grimps's eyes narrowed. You mock Grimps the Terrible? Not at all. Actually, we were hoping to discuss your business model. See where we come from. Piracy is considered, well, let's call it a career-limiting choice. Bah. These council weaklings allow Grimps to operate. They fear our might. Jake's smile widened. Oh, that's interesting. So you're saying you threaten and steal from people, and they just let you? Of course. Is the way of the galaxy, the strong take from the weak. Huh. Jake scratched his head thoughtfully. You know, back on Earth we had pirates too, it being the key phrase there. Something in his tone made my blood run cold. Grimmex, however, was too arrogant to notice. You dare threaten Grimps? My fleet number's in the hundreds. My warriors are feared across 3 systems. Hundreds? Wow, that's really something. Jake paused to consult something off screen. Hey, quick question. How many ships did you say you had? 437 vessels of destruction. 437. Got it. And they're all in the Kepler 442 system right now? Grimps's expression shifted from arrogant to suspicious. How you know this? Oh, we've been keeping an eye on things. Just wanted to make sure we had accurate numbers for our records. Thanks for confirming. This has been a really productive conversation. You think to frighten Grimmex with words? I will show you the power of. The transmission cut off abruptly. Captain Zorith's eye stalk swiveled toward the human screen in alarm. Commander Morrison. What just happened? Jake was typing something on a device outside the camera's view. Oh, just updating some targeting coordinates. Hey, want to watch something fun? Before anyone could object, Jake patched through what appeared to be a tactical display. The Kepler 442 system appeared on screen, showing the positions of Grimps's entire fleet. They were arranged in a classic intimidation formation around a merchant convoy, exactly as described in the Piracy Regulation Handbook, Section 12, Subsection C. Now, normally we'd go through proper diplomatic channels for this sort of thing, Jake explained conversationally, but seeing as how you folks seem to have a, let's call it a non-traditional approach to law enforcement, we figured we'd handle this Earth style. Suddenly, new contacts appeared on the tactical display, dozens of them, emerging from what had appeared to be empty space around the pirate fleet. They moved with a precision and coordination that made my throat constrict with fear. What are those? Lieutenant Fex whispered. Oh, those? Just a few friends of ours. The U.S. Vengeance, U.S. Retribution, U.S. Reckoning. We're not very creative with names, but we make up for it in other ways. The human ships opened fire. It wasn't like the orderly, regulated combat we were used to in the galaxy. There were no formal challenges, no declaration of intent, no opportunity for surrender negotiations. The humans simply eliminated the pirate fleet, systematically, efficiently, completely. In less than 3 minutes, 437 pirate vessels had been reduced to expanding clouds of debris. The bridge of the Eternal Harmony was dead silent. Well, Jake said brightly, that takes care of that problem. Oh, and don't worry about the merchant convoy. Our ships are already escorting them to safety. No charge, of course. Consider it a welcome to the neighborhood gift. Captain Zorith's voice came out as a strangled whisper. You destroyed an entire fleet, in minutes. Turns out when you don't give pirates scheduling notifications and insurance policies, they're a lot easier to deal with. Who knew? But the regulations, the proper procedures. You can't just... Jake's expression became thoughtful. You know, Captain, that's an interesting point. See, we've been studying your galactic civilization for quite a while now, and we've noticed something curious. You've got all these rules and regulations and committees, but somehow your citizens are still getting robbed, enslaved, and murdered on a pretty regular basis. The system works. Captain Zorith protested weakly. Does it, though? I mean, really? You just told me that losing 14% of all commerce to theft is a success story. Back on Earth, if a government lost 14% of everything to criminals, we'd call that a failed state. The uncomfortable truth of his words settled over the bridge like a suffocating blanket. The thing is, Jake continued, we humans have this weird quirk in our psychology. We really don't like bullies. And from where we're sitting, your whole galaxy looks like it's run by and for bullies, with everyone else just accepting it as normal. But change must come through proper channels, Captain Zorith insisted. Committee reviews, impact assessments, bureaucratic oversight. Jake's laugh was not entirely pleasant. Captain, how long have your people been filing reports about the piracy problem? Well, approximately 800 cycles, but 800 years. 800 years of meetings and committees and paperwork, and the best you managed was to reduce piracy by 1%. 1% in 8 centuries. The silence stretched uncomfortably. Here's the thing, folks, Jake said, his tone becoming more serious. Humanity just joined the galactic community, and we're looking around at what you've built here. And honestly, we're not impressed. You've created a system where the strong prey on the weak, where criminals operate with government approval, where justice is something you schedule in advance and file and triplicate. So what do you propose? I found myself asking, though I immediately regretted speaking up. Jake's predator smile returned. We propose a new approach. See, for the past 50 years we've been watching and learning. We know who the bad guys are. We know where they operate. We know their strengths, their weaknesses, their patterns. He paused, letting that sink in. And now, we're going to do something your civilization apparently considers impossible. We're going to make them stop. You can't simply decide to restructure galactic civilization, Captain Zorith sputtered. Can't we? Jake shrugged. I mean, you folks had your chance. 800 years of chances, actually. But somehow, pirates are still pirating, slavers are still slaving, and warmongers are still warmongering, all with proper permits and scheduled appointments. The tactical display updated, showing human ships appearing throughout the sector, not just a few ships. Hundreds of them, thousands. The galaxy was peaceful because humanity was silent, Jake said quietly. We were listening, learning, planning, but silence has its limits, and frankly, we've seen enough. Captain Zorith's voice was barely audible. What do you intend to do? Jake's smile became something truly terrifying. We intend to speak. 3 standard galactic days later, I wished I had never heard of humanity. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was, to put it mildly, absolute pandemonium. Representatives from 47 different species packed the Great Assembly Hall on Nexus Prime, all talking at once, all terrified, and all demanding answers that nobody had. Order. Chancellor Vex pounded his ceremonial gavel with increasing desperation. The ancient Quilorian's feathers were molting from stress, leaving a small pile of blue-green plumage around his podium. The assembly will come to order. AI. Assembly. Senator Threx of the Zephyrian Empire stood up, his multiple arms gesticulating wildly. Chancellor, in the past 72 hours, 17 separate criminal organizations have simply vanished. The Crimson Fang slavers, the Omega Cartel, the entire Black Hole Syndicate, gone, without a trace. Not without a trace, corrected Ambassador Yilek, her crystalline form chiming with agitation. They left very detailed traces. Specifically, detailed recordings of their crimes, their victims, and their locations. That all broadcast on every frequency simultaneously. That's not the worst part, shouted Representative Gorth from the back. They're sending bills. The assembly fell silent. Bills? Chancellor Vex repeated faintly. Invoices for damages. Gorth waved a data pad frantically. The humans are charging the syndicate families for liberation services, victim compensation, and something called asshole removal fees. I couldn't help myself. Despite the terror gripping my digestive tract, I laughed, actually laughed out loud. Several representatives turned to stare at me with expressions ranging from shock to horror. Communications Officer Vortak, Chancellor Vex said sternly, "This is hardly a matter for amusement." "Respectfully, Chancellor," I replied, still chuckling, "asshole removal fees, you have to admit, it's got a certain elegance to it." Before anyone could respond, every screen in the assembly hall flickered to life. Jake Morrison's face appeared, larger than life, still wearing that unsettling smile. "Good morning, Galactic Council," he said cheerfully. "Sorry to interrupt, but we thought you might want a status update on our little spring cleaning project." Chancellor Vex's feathers practically exploded in all directions. "Commander Morrison, this assembly is in closed session. You cannot simply override your security protocols, hack into your most secure communications, broadcast to every system simultaneously." Jake shrugged. "Yeah, about that. Turns out your cybersecurity is about as effective as your crime fighting, which is to say, not very." Senator Threx stood up so quickly he knocked over his chair. "You have no right, no authority, no jurisdiction." "Jurisdiction?" Jake's laugh was genuinely amused. "Senator, yesterday we rescued 14,000 slaves from the Omega Cartel's processing centers, 14,000 sentient beings who were being sold like livestock, and you're worried about jurisdiction?" The human's expression hardened. "Let me ask you something, Senator. How many of those slaves were from Zephyrian colonies?" Threx's face went pale. That's not. We filed the appropriate protests through proper channels." 3,742, Jake said quietly. "That's how many Zephyrian citizens were in those slave pens. Your own people, Senator. And your government's response was to file paperwork." The assembly erupted in angry shouting, but Jake simply raised his voice over the noise. "Here's what's going to happen." His words cut through the chaos like a plasma cutter through butter. "We've spent the last 3 days cleaning house, and frankly, the galaxy's house was disgusting. But we're not done yet." A new display appeared behind him, showing a tactical map of the entire galaxy. Red dots marked various locations throughout every sector. These red markers represent what we've designated as problematic entities: pirates, slavers, illegal weapons dealers, corrupt officials, warlords, and various other sociopaths who've been treating the galaxy like their personal playground. There were thousands of red dots. Over the next 30 standard days, every single one of these problems will be addressed permanently. Yay! Ambassador Yilek's crystalline form resonated with alarm. "You cannot simply decide to police the entire galaxy. Watch us," Jake replied flatly. "See, here's the thing none of you seem to understand. We tried playing by your rules. We sent diplomatic requests, filed formal complaints, submitted evidence of crimes through proper channels. You know what happened? Nothing. Absolutely nothing." He gestured to something off-screen, and another human stepped into view. This one wore what appeared to be a formal military uniform, complete with an impressive array of decorations. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen, commander of the Seoul Defense Fleet. Admiral, would you care to share our findings with the Council?" Admiral Chen stepped forward, her expression grim. 3 months ago, we submitted detailed evidence of 17 major criminal organizations to this very Council. Evidence that included victim testimonies, financial records, location data, and DNA evidence. The response we received was a form letter informing us that our complaint had been filed under reference number 847 Alpha Zeta 9, and that we could expect a preliminary review within 18 to 24 months. The silence in the assembly hall was deafening. 18 to 24 months, Admiral Chen repeated, while 14,000 people rotted in slave pens, while merchant families were murdered for their cargo, while entire colonies paid tribute to pirates just to survive. Jake stepped back into view. So we decided to skip the bureaucracy. Turns out, when you're not hampered by committees and impact assessments and proper filing procedures, you can actually get things done pretty quickly. But the law. Chancellor Vex protested. Galactic regulations. The proper order of things. What law? Jake's voice turned cold. The law that allows slavery as long as the paperwork is filed correctly. The law that gives pirates designated hunting grounds. The law that requires victims to submit Form 847B in triplicate before someone will investigate their murder. He leaned closer to the screen. You call it law, we call it institutionalized evil. Representative Gorth stood up nervously. But who gave you the right to decide? What makes you think you can just fix everything? Jake's expression became thoughtful. You know what, Representative? That's actually a fair question. What gives us the right? He paused, seeming to consider his words carefully. Here's the thing. We're not claiming some grand moral authority. We're not saying we're better than you. Hell, humans have done plenty of terrible things to each other over the centuries. But we learned something important along the way. Which is, I found myself asking, that evil prospers when good people do nothing. And looking around this galaxy, we see a whole lot of good people doing nothing while bad people run wild. Admiral Chen stepped forward again. The difference is, we decided to stop doing nothing. Senator Threx was practically vibrating with indignation. You cannot simply impose your will on the entire galaxy. What about sovereignty? What about the rights of independent systems? What about them? Jake shot back. The Vega colony's sovereignty didn't stop pirates from enslaving half their population. The Altair Republic's independence didn't prevent warlords from bombing their cities. Your precious sovereignty only seems to protect the people who don't need protecting. Another human voice spoke from off-screen. Admiral, we're getting reports from Sector 12. The Bloodtooth clan is requesting terms for surrender. Excellent. Admiral Chen replied. Standard terms: full restitution to victims, surrender of all weapons, disbanding of the organization, and exile to the penal colonies. Any resistance? No, ma'am. They're apparently very eager to cooperate. Jake grinned. Funny how eager people become when you demonstrate that there are actually consequences for their actions. Chancellor Vex was wringing his hands desperately. But what about us? The Council? Our authority? What about it? Jake shrugged. Look, we're not trying to destroy your government. We're just circumventing it until it starts actually governing. That's anarchic. Ambassador Yilik chimed. No, Admiral Chen corrected. Anarchy is what you had before, criminals doing whatever they wanted while authorities shuffled paperwork. What we're bringing is order. Whose order? Senator Threx demanded. Jake's smile returned, and it was terrifying. Ours. The tactical display updated, showing human ships throughout the galaxy. Not hundreds now. Not thousands. Tens of thousands of ships, positioned at every major trade route, every strategic system, every known criminal stronghold. Ladies, gentlemen, and assorted other beings. Jake announced formally. As of this moment, the Sol Defense Fleet is assuming peacekeeping duties for the Milky Way galaxy. Effective immediately, the following activities are prohibited: slavery, piracy, extortion, murder for profit, and general dickishness. General dickishness? I repeated weakly. We'll know it when we see it. Admiral Chen added helpfully. This is impossible. Chancellor Vex squawked. You cannot patrol an entire galaxy. Want to bet? Jake's grin widened. See, while you folks have been having committee meetings for the past 800 years, we've been developing something we call military technology. Turns out, when your primary focus isn't filling out forms, you can accomplish some pretty impressive things. The display showed more ships appearing throughout the galaxy, many more ships. And how many vessels do you have? Senator Threx whispered. Enough, Admiral Chen replied simply. More than enough. Jake stepped closer to the screen again. Here's what's going to happen, Council. You're going to do your jobs. You're going to pass real laws with real consequences. You're going to create actual law enforcement with actual authority, and you're going to do it quickly. And if we refuse? Chancellor Vex asked with the last dregs of his dignity. Then we'll do your jobs for you. Permanently. Jake's tone was absolutely matter of fact. The galaxy has been peaceful because humanity was silent. We were content to watch from the sidelines while you maintained your little bureaucratic paradise. But that ends today. The strong will no longer prey on the weak without consequence. Criminals will no longer operate with government approval. Justice will no longer require an appointment and 3 forms of identification. He paused, letting his words sink in. The galaxy was peaceful because we were silent. Now we speak. And our voice carries the weight of 10,000 warships and absolutely zero patience for evil disguised as procedure. Admiral Chen stepped forward one final time. You have 30 days to begin meaningful reforms. Crime rates will drop. Corruption will end. The innocent will be protected. You can do this yourselves, or we can do it for you. Your choice. But Chancellor Vex began weakly. 30 days, Jake repeated firmly. The humans have spoken. The transmission cut off, leaving the assembly hall in stunned silence. I looked around at my fellow representatives, all of them sitting in shock, trying to process what had just happened. The humans hadn't just declared war on crime, they had declared war on the very foundations of our civilization. And the truly terrifying part? I was starting to think they were right. After 3,000 cycles of committee meetings and regulation forms, of institutionalized evil and bureaucratic paralysis, the humans had accomplished more in 3 days than we had in 3 centuries. The galaxy was about to change, whether we liked it or not. As I sat there contemplating the end of the only world I had ever known, I realized something remarkable. For the first time in my life, I actually felt safe. The galaxy had been peaceful because humanity was silent. Now they had spoken, and the universe would never be the same.